Oh, hi. Right. Hello to everyone. This is the Dark Master with a Living Martial Arts podcast. Hopefully you're enjoying the guests that we've had on. I know that you're going to enjoy this guest. Super excited to have Mr. Ciaran McDonald. He teaches in the Oxford area, teaches Taekwondo, but also has a background in karate as well. Very similar to myself, in fact. So yeah, really pleased to have him on the podcast. So how are you, Mr. McDonald?
Very well, sir. Very well, sir. How are you?
Excellent. Yeah. I'm good. I'm doing the thing. I've done the thing this morning that I like the most. I've been out training. I've been out doing a little bit of stretching and that type of thing. And I've also done some guitar. So the things that I love to do, a little bit of workout and a little bit of relaxation, and that's my mornings. I did a bit of breathing as well.
Wow, so, that's a full day, and it's only like 11:15.
Well, the thing is, I actually wake up really early. My eyes, whatever time I go to bed, my eyes always ping at 6. So by the time 6:30 is there, I'm up. And I think it's my hyperactivity actually that does it to me. But I've never struggled getting out of bed.
I fight against nature all the time. I know I should be a morning person, but and increasingly my body is fighting against my nature as I get older as well. Now I'm very sort of photosensitive, so whenever there's a dash of daylight that comes, it manages to get in through the curtains, boom, I wake up. So instead of waking up, which would be the sensible thing to do, I've invested hundreds of pounds in various sleep masks and ear pads and stuff, so block out the environment.
well, I'll tell you one thing I've got recently, and I've got it in the next couple of days. I'm going to do some things on this podcast about it, but I've just got a grounding bed sheet, so I can sleep grounded. And I'm actually standing on a grounding mat, so I'm grounding to earth. I'm just seeing how my body feels. I've actually done it before, but I'm trying it in a slightly different way. I'm going to get a grounding. Some grounding implements, because I like walking outside, which is what grounding is all about, and getting on the grass barefoot and that type of thing. And apparently it's supposed to be extremely good for your health, so we'll see. But anyway, on with the podcast. Great to have you on here. I'm going to start with my usual question, which is, it's quite an open-ended question really, because this can go on if you've been training in martial arts for some time, like you have and like I have. This could actually go on all day. So the question is can you tell me a little bit about your martial arts journey? You're going to have to condense it, because I know there are a few elements to your journey, but please go for it.
Right. Okay then. So the condensed version. So I started martial arts in early 80s, like everybody else did. We did whatever martial art was available in the local village hall. For me, it was in my dad lived in a poor area of my dad and mum got divorced at an early age. My parents were immigrants, and he lived in an area full of immigrants in Reading, off the Oxford Road, and they had a blind centre there, and the guy there was teaching Shotokan karate, and I believe it was Shotokan karate. I mean, it could have been anything for all I know. And we went in there and did some of that, and that was it. You got the. I mean, you had the bug before then, because we lived in a time of knockoff videos, and everyone was watching the Bruce Lee and the whole Hong Kong movie, thing that was going on at the moment.
Yeah.
At that time, so everybody wanted to be Bruce Lee, and really, I don't know what karate was, or kung fu was, or taekwondo was, or anything at the time. I was just happy to leap up and down and do what Sensei told me. So I did that for a bit. That was good. And that was kind of introduction to martial arts that stayed with me all through my life. Like most people, I never stuck at it, and came back to it later on in life. And again, I tried a lot of other martial arts. I tried Aikido a few times, and I never really got on with that. They just seemed like angry windmills in the class. No one was really saying anything or speaking. It was like just waving their arms around in circles. So it wasn't for me. And then I got into Taekwondo. I found I basically was smoking again. My parents were a nightmare for smoking. I mean, you grew up in the 70s and 80s as well, so you remember sitting in
Oh,
rooms.
thanks very much. Yeah, most people would have had 60s and 70s, but I'll take that.
In those days, you couldn't see, right? There was like a fog in your living room on a Saturday if you lived with people who smoked, or in every bar or restaurant or everywhere you went, you just couldn't see anything. People now, if you tell them that you were sat in a room like that, they'd freak. They just wouldn't believe it. But yeah, I grew up with that. So then I inevitably grew up smoking as well. And I'd had enough of it by the time I'd reached my early 20s. So I was looking for a way to get out of it. And I tried just willpower, which failed me dramatically. So I needed something healthy to focus my life into, and that was martial arts. And the martial art that was close to me at that time happened to be a thing called freestyle Taekwondo, which was, I mean, I don't know what it was, but it was kicking and punching and running around the hall and doing press ups and all those things that we're very attached to and would recognize immediately. And that was it, basically. I got sold on the healthy lifestyle, not completely, but
yeah,
you know, I still like drinking a burger every now and again, but yeah, but it definitely changed the path of my life, and I definitely gave up smoking. So that was the last time I smoked.
Oh wow!
It worked really well. Yeah, I mean, I've been an addict, proper addict. Get up in the morning, have a cigarette, go to bed. Last thing I do is have a cigarette, and then all of a sudden I started martial arts, and that had gone. You know, I needed to breathe.
Yeah,
and that was the solution. Stop burning money, inhaling it.
Well, it's sorry to sort of cut in there, but it's funny because you're right. You know, I used to sit in rooms. I remember going on a flight, sitting at the front of an aircraft because you had smoking and non-smoking. There was no screen. So guess what? The smoke didn't didn't discriminate. It used to come up to all the non-smokers and then back down again. And also the other place that I got exposed to smoke was at school, because everybody, all the bad lads used to smoke in the toilet. So you go in the toilets to use the toilets and you just get absolutely drenched in smoke. And the other place was the staff room at school. If you ever stood outside the staff room and the door opened, you had a waft of smoke. So yeah, you're right. Sorry, carry on.
No, I was just reminiscing there about standing outside the staff room. I spent a lot of time in my youth standing outside the staff room. But yeah, and then after that, I got sold on Taekwondo, so that was it. I had a disastrous experience with the freestyle. Guy, as a white belt, told me to break a board. He'd never trained me how to break a board. He just said, hit it. This was in my first grading. I'd never even seen one before.
Oh, wow.
So I said, how do I hit it? And he just said, punch it as hard as you can. So that's what I did. I broke my hand, you know. It was crazy. They were going to pin my wrist for quite a while. I was going to lose the flexibility in my wrist. I was very upset. So obviously I never went back, collected that belt. But thankfully by that time I'd found other Taekwondo schools and I'd fallen in love with what used to be called WTF.
Yeah.
Although they've wisely binned that when they call themselves WT. But yeah, so I fell in love with that. That was like hardcore training with some Indian Malaysian family in East London, and they were nutters. They would slap children and shout at you, and they were proper military discipline. I don't think they'd actually ever been in the military, but they definitely inherited that military discipline. And yeah, crikey, I mean, I don't know how they didn't get put away for some of the things they did. I mean, literally, they were slapping small children around the face in front of me. I thought, whoa, I'm going to do what I'm told. But you did get fit. That's very, very quickly. And then from there, I moved down. I moved down to Newbury, and there weren't any World Taekwondo or WTF schools. So I hooked up with my local ITF stylist, who'd just become an ITF stylist and used to be a TAGB stylist. And as you know that man very well, that was Master Mark Ogborn, my instructor for many years.
Yeah,
and I joined Puma through that. So that was the beginning of proper learning proper Taekwondo.
Yeah. Well, it's those that are listening, any WTF stylists that are listening, the thing about WTF was it was very different in those days. I mean, I did a tiny bit of WTF and competed against some WTF exponents, and it was all spinning back leg and that type of thing. And actually, it was quite dynamic. The WTF that I see today in the Olympics isn't quite the same, and I think unfortunately it really has. In my opinion, I don't think it's done a great deal for the WTF or WT style, the Olympics. It's a shame because they've sort of changed it so that people can know what's going on and recognise a point when they see it, which I think has been to the detriment of the WTF, which is a shame.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, I don't want to come across as someone who's slagging off WTF, because I do love. Although I did foolishly say that, but I do love WTF. I mean, yeah, I've been doing Taekwondo for over 20 years now, and we are, as a martial art, we are without a doubt the best at kicking in the world. There are no other. Karate are good, but they're not as good as us because we're specialists in it. And WTF are better than us because they spend more time kicking than we do. We spend a lot of time doing forms and patterns. You'd be lucky. I mean, I spent 2 years doing WTF and never learned a form. Never.
Yeah.
Day one, I was doing tornado kicks.
Yeah.
I mean? So you get really good at kicking really, really quickly. And that is the focus. And you are right. Yeah, the Olympic Taekwondo was absolutely atrocious. And even people who've been in WTF their whole life now are embarrassed about it, especially now they're in. They're introducing these new uniforms where people are wearing a pair of pants and a pair of tights. They're just embarrassing. They've just, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what's going on with it. It got so bad for a while that people were just standing on the spot, bouncing up and down, going, wah, 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 wah. And there was no activity, so they had to introduce cards for inactivity if you didn't do anything within a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
It was embarrassing. They literally weren't doing anything. They were just flicking a shoulder and making that noise. I remember when I got super into Taekwondo, and it became introduced into the Olympics as a demonstration sport in the Seoul Olympics. I got super excited, and I got all my friends round to watch World Taekwondo at the Olympics, and it was the most boring thing I'd ever seen. I felt so guilty because I was foisting this on my friends, telling them it was going to be dynamic and exciting, because all the tournaments I've been to had been that way. But this was just dreadful. They definitely need to look at it, because it's the same with all sports. When you get like a guy that is brilliant and another guy or girl that are brilliant, you put them together, they kind of cancel each other out. So you have to tinker with the rules to allow the greatest array of techniques that you want to see, but also you have to tinker with them so that you get activity and certain things are rewarded. And I think that's the problem that WTF have got, or the World Taekwondo Association have got, or Kukukwan have got. They're just changing the rules around all the time, changing the nature of the sport, and there's no consistency in it now, and it hasn't improved it. For example, they do the electronic touch pads now that they're using.
Yes, that's right.
They've got rid of all the old flicky, switch kicking that we used to associate with World Taekwondo, because your foot doesn't make contact with the electronic pads for long enough to score techniques. And so the change of the rules has removed what we would associate with being as staple techniques of World Taekwondo.
Sure. Well, it's a shame, and I'm hoping that maybe there will be some more real changes for the better, but we'll see. So moving on, really, the next thing is about fitting how you fit, martial arts into your current day now. Now that you're a martial arts instructor, and I know. Again, like all of these things, you could probably talk about this for hours, and I could certainly talk about how I fit martial arts into my everyday. Talking about my morning routine just now, I actually see that as part of my martial arts. Even just the relaxing bit, the sitting down, getting away from it, playing guitar. For me, that's all about my martial art and what I need to do to actually be a better martial artist. So it's really how you fit it into your everyday life. And I also know as well that you do a slightly different or concentrate on a slightly different part of the martial art as well, perhaps real applications. Maybe you can talk about that as well, and how you got into that.
Okay, that sounds good. Well, the question is, how do I fit martial arts into my everyday life? But actually the question should be really flipped for me, and it's how do I fit my everyday life into my martial arts?
Right, yeah, definitely.
Because I'm pretty much doing martial arts all day, every day, in some form or other. If I'm not writing books, I wrote this book that took me a while. If I'm not writing that or publicizing that, I'm producing DVDs. I'm producing.
Can I just say, sorry to cut you off again? Can I just say for anybody that statement was quite flippant with a book. People say, "Oh, I just wrote a book." Anybody who's ever wrote a book will know how long that takes. With everything, pictures, the editing, everything. I did a very, very small one, and I'm writing one now. But just that remark, you're talking about a huge part of your life. But sorry, carry on.
Oh, definitely. Don't worry. I'll be coming back to plug that in a minute.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, it just literally takes over your life, and also the training as well. Although Taekwondo is my first love, it's not the only martial art I study. So I study Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I study kickboxing, I study old style, Okinawan karate, and I'm trying to spin the plate to keep all those things going at the same time, keep up my strength and flexibility, but also the techniques and drilling of the other arts. And as I say, if I'm not actually physically training and filling up my time with training, then I'm filling it up with producing books or blog articles or YouTube videos or fixing my podcasts and things like that. So I'm obsessed with it. The problem is trying to squeeze in my family life into it. That's the thing, trying to get the balance of.
Yeah, I know how that feels.
Because as soon as I start talking about martial arts or anything to do, because I'm like dreadfully boring at dinner parties because all I talk about is martial arts and people's eyes glaze over.
You go to the wrong dinner parties.
That's the thing. But whenever I start speaking about anything to do with my life outside my family, it's obviously martial arts related. And my wife's eyes just glaze over. She just walks off now. She's so bored of it. I'm trying to get a balance. That's the thing. But we shall see whether I manage that or not.
Well, it is difficult. It's difficult to get a balance. Like, as you say, I think you're right. It's how do you fit, your life into your martial arts. Certainly that is with me, having 4 children, 2 older ones, 2 younger ones, and trying to get enough time to see them and to, do the things that they love to do as well, and be part of their lives is quite difficult. But I think, as martial artists, certainly for me, my 2 older kids, I got them into martial arts so we could do something together. And also my younger 2 as well into martial arts, we could do something together with a view to them, perhaps when they got older, doing what I do, but none of them have taken it on so far. So I'm still here on my own, unfortunately, but there we go. I suppose that's the other side of being a martial arts teacher and having martial arts as your life, really. They've probably got fed up of it after all the years, but anyway. But go on.
No, I was just going to say, hippie parents, their kids quite often run off and become accountants or join the city or something like that. Or the other way around is people from posh background, accountancy backgrounds, or really respected trades. Their kids quite often go off and do the other thing.
Yeah.
So it's something to be expected. I'm trying to find that balance of not forcing my kids into martial arts, letting them find their own way there and guiding them. But yeah, they're not as obsessed about it as me either. So I can see the same thing happening.
Yeah.
I can see drifting off into something else.
Yeah, as you say, if you love them, you have to let them go.
That's it. Yeah, I guess.
So there we are. So tell me a little bit about your book, and I know that you like the other side of, well, that's not the other side of martial art, it's actually part of the martial art. It's something that I really haven't explored, not in great detail. I did do some years ago, but it was the alternative applications of the techniques that we used, and why that's so interesting to you.
Right. Well, I'm one of those people that has to know stuff, and I'm one of those annoying people that, if you're in a conference or a seminar or something, I will be the one putting my hand up, asking all the questions. I have to know everything that I need to know before I leave, and that's just the way I've always been. I've always had that kind of inquiring mind, and been to university a few times, studied various different things, and yeah, just I've enjoyed that as a way of satisfying my curiosity in whatever I was studying. And so consequently, when I was involved in martial arts, the same thing. I asked loads of questions, I needed the answers. And in Taekwondo, with regards to how the patterns are applied, Taekwondo runs out of answers quite quickly. So if you want to find out, like say for example, Junga is one of my favorite patterns, because it's one of the first ones that I managed to document all the techniques in it, and give all the applications for it. But if you want to find that, in the old days, a kata or a pattern used to be a guy's teaching system. So the idea was that he or she, invariably it was a he, would teach you all the self-defense that you needed to know. And so that you could remember it, they would create a solo form, a solo version for you to drill it on your own against an imaginary opponent. And that was your pattern, or your kata, or your hyung, or your tul, or your pumse, or whatever. But you wouldn't learn the kata or the pattern first. You'd learn the self-defense first. But now, consequently, during the modernization of karate, they pulled together hundreds and hundreds of kata, and learning kata for its own sake became a thing, which we've inherited into Taekwondo. But learning the self-defense first has completely disappeared. So what happens now is when you learn a pattern, you don't learn what the applications of it are. And in Taekwondo, we've got a thing that is either good or an obstruction, depending on how you look at it. We were given an encyclopaedia by General Che, which contains examples of all the techniques. Shows you how high your knife hand goes, shows you how wide your L stance goes, which is great. But unfortunately, some of the techniques he shows, he applies them against things which are not really very realistic, like a jumping flying kick, a knife hand, or a W-shaped block against two flying kicks. And because there is a gap in the Taekwondo knowledge, people are looking to fill that. A lot of people have made the mistake of believing that General Che knew all the applications and put them all in the encyclopedia, and that is it, and there is nothing else. Whereas nothing could be further from the truth. Lots of people who train with General Che said he was quite open to you finding out what the things were. And when they created Taekwondo, that wasn't his focus. His focus wasn't to create an art with hundreds of different grappling applications. His focus was to forge men of steel that could punch through walls and leap over moving cars, which is widely documented that he was obsessed with people leaping over moving cars, and he got his guys, his team that he took around the world with Nam Tae-hee and Ahil Cho and people like that were absolutely incredible athletes. And you would look at them and go, wow. So people didn't need to know how to get out of a headlock or how to escape from having your hair pulled, because they were looking at these men and thinking, wow, that is what I want to be. I want to dedicate my life to becoming one of those men of steel. And, that's true. And that was great. But unfortunately, we have 24 or 25 or 26 patterns, depending on how you want to count them. And not much is dedicated to learning all the great self-defense stuff that the patterns contain. And I'm one of those people who has to know stuff. So when I found out that the answers weren't within Taekwondo, I had to go and find out the answers myself, which took me on a journey of discovery and took me to studying various different martial arts, classical jiu-jitsu, bits of kung fu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I've got some answers from them. But when I hit an application-based form of Okinawan old-style karate under the guidance of Patrick McCarthy, he had already done the journey that I was trying to do in karate 20 years before me. And he'd found out all the applications for karate, because karate was the same. They'd lost karate wanted men of steel. Yeah. And so they lost all the applications to their kata. And the more kata they collected, the more confusion there became. And so consequently, and because of the dogma and the hierarchical system, you're not allowed to question what your instructor says, and his instructor won't question up their chain of authority. And the guy at the top, their word is sacrosanct, is pretty much the word of God. So if they say something is the way it is, you can't question that. And that's great if you live in the East, because that's the kind of Confucius-based culture that they have, one of respect and
Sure. Yeah.
ancestral worship. But that isn't the culture of the West. Our West is post-Enlightenment thinking, critical thinking, where we challenge everything, and that challenging and pulling apart stuff becomes a process of learning. So that's the way I grew up, and that's the way we argued when we were kids with our parents. We argued among ourselves. I went to university, they taught me argumentation and academic ways of pulling apart things and critical thinking. And so when I found out that there weren't any answers to what the application of the patterns were, I applied this model of thinking to that and found a lot of the answers.
It's interesting. Well, no, that's great. That's a great explanation. I actually, many moons ago, I don't know, probably about 20 years ago, I read a book. It was slightly different to your book, but it was by a karate instructor. I think it was a 6th degree, and I know I've still got the book, and I've been trying to find the book, and it's quite a thick book, but it only had about 4 different techniques in there. And there was sort of the X block, and those people listening to this will know what I mean, an X block with the hands crossed, knife hand guarding block, and a few other things. And he was interpreting, saying, well, actually, he thinks that originally it was just these techniques, and all the rest, not saying they weren't useful, but they weren't, they were there really just for content, if you want to call it content. Now, I don't know, as I said, it's great actually to have different thoughts on martial arts, because there are so many different martial arts. If you look at the kung fu styles, where they follow the movements of animals, for example, the crane, the snake and the crane, and all that sort of thing, and try and mimic the way that animals fight, tiger claw, that type of thing. It is interesting, and I think that there is certainly room for what you're doing, and the book that you've written, which is a great book. And I've always said to people that in a way I'm quite shallow because I love Taekwondo. I love the kicking and punching, and I love the fitness side of Taekwondo. And that really is it for me. That's what I like. Whether it's because I haven't got an inquiring mind into that type of thing, I don't know. But that's a great explanation. Where do you think, from your point of view, now that you've done that book, maybe you're doing another book, where would you like to take it in the future?
Well, I think basically the natural progression is I'm going to start now. COVID's pretty much put the kibosh for a while on what I was doing.
Yeah, definitely. On most things at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. And you can't touch. We live in a world where we can't touch people anymore. And my whole thing is touching people, especially not walking up to random strangers, but like my whole thing is that the basic grappling of Taekwondo, because for me the application of the patterns are mostly grappling based, which what I mean by that is not like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu where you're 150 ways to put an arm bar on. What I mean is the applications take place when someone is grabbing hold of you.
Right.
Because violence, as we know, violence occurs in a chaotic manner. And if one guy doesn't knock the other guy out within 4 or 5 seconds, it invariably ends up in some form of grappling. One guy grabs the other guy and they wrestle for a bit. Sure. That's a natural instinct in us. The standing at a distance and punching it out has to be trained because it's not natural. And consequently, the patterns and all the techniques that they inherited from Taekwondo, a lot of them take place at that close distance. So what I was going to do was travel around and enlightening people by helping them to find the applications of their patterns. But not only do that, but by creating small drills that they can introduce into their class, so that as they go along, they can introduce them into their syllabus without changing the nature of their syllabus at all. So you still learn your patterns, you still have your kicking, you still have your line work, and but you can have these drills that you can introduce at various different belts that come out of the patterns. And you can teach your students, say for example, a way to escape a headlock using a U-shaped block, or a way to escape a lapel grab using twin knife hand, or a way to escape having your hands held behind your back, again using a twin knife hand. So then that enriches what you're doing. It adds a whole different level of understanding to it. And you don't have, I mean, it's not compulsory, but some people are looking for that, and they quite
sure.
Once they don't get it, they leave and they go somewhere else. And what I'm saying is, if I will give you this, I'll help you to learn it, and you can introduce it into your schools. And for those people that want to know the answers but aren't finding them, you will then cover that. Because Taekwondo, as you said, is a broad church, right? Very, very, very few people get into Taekwondo for the same reason that they stay for.
Yes.
So, some people, I mean, I taught pattern applications, 10 years ago, and I set up a day, like once a month day, where people would come down, and I was super excited by what I'd learned, and I was shocked that most of the black belts that I was training with didn't care. Because, and I thought, wow, how could you not care? How could you not get excited about this stuff? But I failed to understand that was not why they did Taekwondo. Some of them, some of them compete at an international level. Some people just like to turn up and chat with their friends. It's a social thing. It's a broad church, as you say. You have your area that excites you, and I have my area that excites me. And I think as an art, it's all encompassing. We can introduce all that and keep it all. And that's why I wrote the book, is to empower people who are looking for something within the broad church of Taekwondo that they're not finding, but it is there. And I'm not teaching, when I teach grappling to people, I'm not teaching them Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I'm not teaching them Okinawan karate. I'm teaching them Taekwondo. It's just another branch of their Taekwondo that they can develop.
Excellent. Yeah, no, that's a fascinating look at it. Well, I mean, anybody listening to this, Ciaran's details will be in the show notes. So if you want to contact him and find out more, maybe you're an instructor, you want to get him down to your school just to, go over some of these things, then the details will be there. So, please contact him. That's excellent. I mean, my next thing really is, I always think that when I started karate, middle 70s, and then Taekwondo, late 70s, for me, I was looking for something. I didn't know what I was looking for. I mean, as you say, it was mainly at first because we were watching the Bruce Lee movies, and that's what we wanted, to be able to, beat up 10 guys within about 30 seconds. But I think that was probably what we were looking for. But what do you think the main benefits that learning the variety of different arts that you've learned have given you?
I think the biggest thing for me is this is a kind of roundabout answer, but I think one of the issues with various different martial arts was that over the years, instructors and federations and the arts themselves have been very protectionist about their students and not allowed them to cross-train, not allowed them to go and find answers somewhere else, which is great. If your instructor knows all the answers, that's great. But if your instructor doesn't know all the answers, then you will never know the answers either to what you're looking for. And as you know yourself, having cross-training is a great thing. Even if it just strengthens your love of your own art, you will learn stuff to bring back into your art that will strengthen what you already know. You've got your foundation, and you can bring other techniques in, and that'll you can build your house on your own Taekwondo foundation. But hey, you can find bricks and roof tiles somewhere else, right? And one of the problems is that in the past people have limited that, so you haven't been able to do that. And so consequently, I'm a great fan of cross training and going and studying various different martial arts. And after studying all the various different martial arts that I have done and acquiring black belts in some and blue belts and stuff in others, what I've discovered is that they're all the same. It's all the same. It's all one art. There are various different stylistic ways and interpretations of doing the same thing. And a good example of this is your knife hand. Now we do a knife hand at roughly a 45-degree angle with the edge of our hand. Some people do a knife hand. Chinese arts do a knife hand with the wrist and arm straight as well. You see that sometimes in kung fu as well, karate as well. And the application for the knife hand, there are like hundreds of different things you can do with the same structure. So like, for example, in a pattern, you extend an arm is straight. And you say, well, what is that? Is it a punch? Is it a push? Is it a grab? Is it an eye gouge? There's lots of things it can be. And the various different arts, they have various, your body only makes a certain amount of shapes. And there's only a certain amount of ways using body mechanics to get out of stuff that's effective. And so various different martial arts apply that stylistic thing. So an escape in karate would look very different than an escape in kung fu, which would look very different than an escape in Brazilian jiu-jitsu, but they all utilize the same principles. So principles of leverage, principles of distraction, principles of attacking weak areas and stuff like that. So so that's basically what you learn. Hundreds of different ways to do the same thing, but really at the end of the day they're all utilizing the same principles, so they're all the same thing. And if you can get past the stylistic differences, you realize that it's just martial arts is just one broad church.
Yeah. No, that's it. It's again, it is fascinating. I think that I know for me, sort of martial arts has given me an appreciation of what I can do as an individual. I know that in the early days of my Taekwondo, one of Master Ri Kiha's sayings was, you have to, your body can be a human weapon. Oh, that's okay. Your body can be a human weapon, and that's what that's what he used to sort of preach all the time. That though you had four limbs, they could be quite deadly, and you just had to train them and hone them. And obviously, in those days, we were doing a lot of conditioning of knuckles and forearms, which we don't tend to do so much these days. But that's what at that time it sort of empowered me, really. That's what it gave to me. So yeah. Well, listen, I want to, because we're slightly out of time on this one, I want to come back and do a second one with you. I want to come back and do a second one with you. So I hope that that'll be okay.
Yeah,
it's been super informative. I love the fact that I love the fact people are passionate about anything, whatever it is, and that passion certainly comes through, and it certainly shows through with the alternative applications, and also your love for martial arts as well. You've been in martial arts a long time, and I think there are certain people who will never leave the martial arts. I believe you're one of those. Definitely, I'm certainly one of those. I often say that I can't do anything now. I've been in it so long that it's just part of me. So I'm sure that's the same with you. I just want to say thank you very much to the audience listening to this. If you go to liveinmartialarts.com, you can pick up on this podcast. Also, don't forget, we're going to put Mr. McDonald's details in the show notes. If you want to get in touch with him, please get in touch with him, and he'll be able to just give you a bit more information about what he does and how he does it. Thank you very much, and hopefully we'll catch you soon. Thank you.